Cool. Alrighty then. So, any more announcements? No. I'm going to take that away and that away and give it to Becky. So let's start with some deep breaths and get back in our bodies. You may be in your body. You may have left. I don't know, but let's breathe anyway. So deep breath in and some noise on the way out. And let that vibration just harmonize your heart chakra, harmonize you with each other. Get any angst or anxiety off of you if there happens to be some. I know we're all zenned out. So deep breath in. And one more really nice deep breath. And I've been talking a lot about dolphin this weekend, and I'm always bringing dolphin into the game. One of the things they teach us is how to completely take a breath in all the way and exhale it completely. And they live in the moment. They're one of the most playful creatures and beings on the planet. They're teaching us how to be in the moment by breathing in fully and exhaling it all so the next moment can be completely new. So let's try that one on this last breath, all the way to the bottom of your belly button. And then exhale it all. Deep breath in. Everybody's all sent out, jelly. And I can start shouting, wake everybody back up. So if you could pop the first picture, because I like fun pictures. If somebody wants to get the lights just for this first part so you can get a visual. This week's talk is called Tapping into the Force of Intention. And again, I just like fun pictures. So he says you see this guy, and if it was a little clearer, you'd be able to see the dynamics of this stuff over here. But every time we do something and we close our mind, we close our eyes, we close our mind's eye, you can flip the light on again because you can see that. It draws us to a focal point. And that's really what intention is. So flip the next slide for me, and you should be able to see this. Not that I'm shitting on anybody. Now, do we have control of the lights again? Yep. Dim it for me. Can you see the words? Okay, so I always like to define things so that we're on the same page. I know that as people walking around the planet and intelligent beings, that we know the definitions of words. There's a lot of words that I've known the definition of, but when talking about emotions and stuff, I'm like, well, you know what? There's 5 or 4 different definitions right there on the board. So a determination to act in a certain way or resolve. Import, importance. Not import, export. Significance, what one intends to do or bring about. The object which a prayer, mass, or pious act is offered. As a Catholic person, we heard that a lot. The intentions of this mass are for Mary. May Mary rest in peace. Type scenario, or for world peace, like we do here for a country. That's an intention. An aim that guides action and objective. Okay, everybody knows definition, right? It's like no-brainer, it's nothing new. But for the focal point of today's talk, and for us in that metaphysical community, you can flip up the next page, and that's where we're really going to hang out, just having these on. Okay, so as I do the dynamics of here, I'm now noticing that blue is not a good color for the wall because it doesn't show up that well. So I'm going to stick with yellow and brighter colors until we manifest a flat screen TV, which is my biggest wanting for us in that tech world to graduate to. So as you look up all these words, and I don't have to look behind me anymore, so they're just synonyms for intention. Aim, ambition, aspiration, design, dream, end, idea, ideal, intent, goal, mark. Not me. I used to call myself the mark of achievement. Anyway. Meaning, object, objective, plan, point, the pretension, or under what pretense am I doing this? Purpose, target, thing. We look at all these different words, And they're all in our, again, everybody knows the definitions of these words. It's all part of our normal language. Now let's bring it into the language of what we're wanting when we say creating our own reality and the laws of attraction and attention. And intention comes into those words all the time. I mean, comes into that formula all the time. Without an intention, what are you going to create? What goal are you going to make? Even if it's as simple as going to the movies, if I have no intentions to get there, I'm going to leave my partner hanging, and they're going to like, where'd Mark go? As the simplest of things, we have to set an intention and a focus. But it's also, what things do you do that support your own intentions? So when we're just, those words are just hanging up there. You don't have to focus on them. Just, they're there. They're in your brain. They're in your mind's eye. And we'll look at them a little bit. So has anybody ever done archery or darts? It's fun, right? So what's the goal when you're sitting there at the dartboard? And I've been more darts than archery. And that's cool because there's a peace sign right there. So I can, sitting there and I'm aiming. And the whole intent is that in that game, that you hit the bullseye. Now, there's different point scoring and all that, but I'm still intending in certain games, I have to hit every single one. I have to have 320s and I have to have 319s. So I'm intending to aim at every single one of them. And my outcome that I'm wanting is that I hit the mark. Oh, it said that word too. That's the goal. Oh, it said that word too. So all these different things can come into fruition when we're playing these outside worlds. And every coach I've ever had in the times I played sports, or in the cool, neat sports movies that we've seen from those inspirational men that turned teams around historically. And then it's a cool movie about a college team with this killer coach and the misfit team. And all of a sudden they go on to win the championship. And one of the key factors in that turnaround was that guy's intention, or gal. Because I think there's an awesome female basketball coach who did wonders with the women's basketball team, and he would know more about that than I do. But my point is, within every single one of them, they had a vision where they wanted to go with their team. And every single person in their team, they knew had a certain talent, and they had a certain intention to draw those talents. So I'm intended to do something. And I know that when I draw a certain talent out of you, what I'm helping you do is take aim for that bullseye within you. It's like we all have that target within us, so to speak, that bullseye target. And if it's an inside job, as we're like really talking about a lot this weekend because we're in the middle of a workshop, understanding that I keep thinking that I'm throwing the dart out there. I keep doing it as much as I know, as airy-fairy as I am and as existential as I've been. I keep thinking I'm throwing the dart out there. And the dart keeps hitting the brick wall and falling. And I'm like, man, I could have sworn I saw a target painted on that wall. And I get stuck in that 3D world, throwing all my targets out there. And I'm telling you, there's only one dart to throw, and it's right in here. And the power of tapping into that intention will bring all sorts of things to happen. So, which leads me right into this wonderful piece called Commitment. And you guys have probably heard me read this before. You've probably heard it somewhere else in life. Until one is committed, there's hesitancy, the chance to draw back, always ineffectiveness. Concerning all acts of initiative and creation, there's one elementary truth, the ignorance of which kills countless ideas and splendid plans, that the moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too. All sorts of things occur to help one that would never otherwise have occurred. A whole stream of events issues from the decision, raising in one's favor all manner of unforeseen incidents and meetings and material assistance, which no man could have dreamed would have come his way. Whatever you can do or dream you can do, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. Begin it now. That's one of the handiest tools to support your intention. Because we have intentions, and I realize that I have intentions, and sometimes I don't clarify my intentions with my own self. Putting out your own want list in life, declaring what you want. Done talks here about right use of will, that as however you want to define it, because this book gets kind of Holy Spirit and very God and a lot of dogma, And I know in the metaphysical community, we're wanting to let go of certain terms, but it's still you. You are the God, you are the goddess, you are the spirit, you are the sacred spirit, you are the Holy Spirit. It's all you anyway. But as we're communicating with those parts of ourselves and understanding that there's a will that lies within us. And when we talked about that right use of will a couple of years ago, it's knowing that, we've all been under this teaching that God gave mankind, free will. So we've heard that. And it's like, but almost forget it. We forget the sentence. Free will means I am free to use my will as I choose. And where does will come from? It comes from a desire to have a certain thing in my life. Well, we've also been told that desire is wrong. So how am I going to manifest anything? How am I going to take aim at a goal? How am I going to hit that mark if I'm already in a place of wrongness for having the desire? It's the fuel behind my intention. That desire is an emotion. Desire is one of those emotional words. You can't show me a desire. It's not a noun, but you can tell me how your desires feel, and you can tell me what you desire, but it's still a verb thing. It's something that you're doing. It's an action, and it's a feeling thing, and it's part of your use of will. So as we get out of all those like worthy issues and all those different things that is part of the inside job in our own psyche that may prevent us from thinking we deserve things, we might not even be able to write down a want. Because if you're processing all that and feeling that desire is sinful, or you're not worthy, or you should be humble and seek only the minimal and give it to everybody else, then your intentions aren't going to come into fruition for you because they don't have anything to back them up. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. If you dream something, begin it, right? So everything that we know from all the different talks we've done about the medicine wheel and going into the West and bringing into the form in the East, take all that stuff out of it and just go, everything that you've ever created, you thought about first. Be it was like, I want this kind of car, and you thought about that kind of car. Or even if when it was a teenager, you didn't even care, you just wanted a car. And you're like, I don't care, man. You're visualizing rust buckets, but you got it. And then you sanded it with your friends and painted it with spray paint, and it was cool, and you liked it. And then as you got older, you started visualizing nicer things and manifesting nicer things. But everybody comes from a different place in their desires. So if I wanted a rust bucket because that was just my desire, I got it. It's not wrong. It's not that I didn't have a better intention. I got exactly what I intended to do. So our goals and our dreams and our desires may change, but the process and the formula is exactly the same the whole way. It's visualizing what you want and then going after it. But most of the going after it is on the inside. There's action that needs to be taken, and there's different cultural ways that teach us of the action. I know I'm very fond and endeared to the Native American path and the animal medicines teaching, which is like we're going to be hanging out in again tonight. Antelope is the one that teaches me about action. That for everything there's a season, and there's a time to act and there's a time to sit. Well, antelope is that one that says, do it now. Now you have all these ideas. Now you have the understanding of how to bring it into form. Now go do it. But that's only one part of the pie. The rest of the circle, the rest of the pie is my will, my desire, my wanting, my intention, and then how I'm going to support it. So what are ways that we can support our own intentions? And you guys can just like back and forth feedback wise, like interaction. What's a way that you can support your own intention? Writing it down. Visualizing. Make a plan. Open to see the opportunities.
I was going to say take action. Let's start with the first step.
First step.
Yeah. I feel my way through it. Like I visualize kind of what my desire is for my life to happen in my life. Like if I want to build something, but then I allow the universe to bring to me the best way for me. So I have the intention and I step out of the way, and it usually ends up way better than I thought.
Anyway, right, exactly. And that's a key point in that step out of the way part. Alex, we're going to be talking about, and you brought it up, so we'll talk about it now because that's one of the key factors. because I create my brick walls. You know, a lot of Italians are masons. Nobody in my family was, but apparently I can build a really good wall anyway. And you know, I'm like, wow. And then because Gabadasa, which means thick-headed, I seem to run into that same wall I built, and I know it's there because I built it. But it blocks me from my own intention. It blocks me from my own wanting, and it's like I got to get out of the way sometimes. And it's like, know that I have all these desires. It's like if I want to hit that goal, I have to feel my way, because sometimes it's dark and the trail got dark and I have to still navigate, right? Sometimes we're even just coming in here, and boy, as we turn the lights out while leaving, we know we're now walking in a dark room, and our senses shift, and we shift into feeling our way through it so we don't crash. So it's all part of the same thing, even in our own intent. Now, it was funny because there was this Catholic prayer when I was a kid that hurt my feelings. And I had to own that when I said it, I always felt sad and bad inside. And I know there's a lot of dogma in that. Certain prayers are intended to bring one place, but somewhere along the line, words got left out or other people misinterpreted the intention. And then these prayers seem to be things that flogged us. And I always, for me, when I prayed, it was something that was uplifting me, making me feel closer to, not unworthy or sinful. So one of the prayers was, boy, I must really blank this out. That's how much trauma it caused me. It's like, forgive me, but only say the word and I shall be healed. It was right before that. And it's like, I know that I've sinned through my fault and what I've done. Thank you, sisters, that I've, through my own fault, in my thoughts, in my words, in what I've done, and what I have failed to do. I didn't want to get out of bed. And that's some of the things that, as we're understanding the dogma of the words and realizing that there was an intention there to keep us on that straight path for our spirit. And somewhere along the line, some of the words got discombobulated and ended up, for this little kid anyway, having a not counterattack. Brain, Wednesday. It has the opposite effect. Counterproductive and opposite effect were going on in my brain at the same time. Thank you. But it does, and it has a counter effect to things. And it's like, but as we look and realize what they were trying to say is, they knew in the religion and in the masters that thought creates absolutely. And that as I failed to act when it was time to act, remember, sin just meant miss the mark or unripe. So in translating all these words, which is why I always like popping definitions up, and then realizing it's like, okay, my brothers and sisters, I realize that in my unripeness, my immaturity, my missing the mark, there are some times that I didn't act in achieving my own intention to bring into fruition something that would have benefited all the people. Forgive me for the negative thoughts, the negative words, 4 agreements, be impeccable with your word, that have come out of this body. And I pray, Blessed Virgin Mary, to all my sisters, to the energy of Christ-light mother nurture energy, to forgive me, to give me the gift of understanding, to give me the gift of nurturing, to give me the gift of letting me off the hook so I can take that next step into wonder. Well, when I translate that prayer to that, golly, there's no flogging happening. I don't feel scars. I feel a lesson of getting back into my positive mind, getting back into my right mind. Course in Miracles talks, hello, 3D. Course in Miracles talks all the time of right-mindedness, but it doesn't talk about wrong. It's about right-mindedness is when you're thinking with the mind of God, because that's who you are. Any other thought, any other part of you creating anything is an illusion because it's not of God or that God self within me. So fear has a big play in all of our thought mechanisms, and in fear, how many times have you gotten what you intended when fear was the thought process that you held the whole time? Evidence showed me none. Yes, and That's where we were just about to go. By virtue of the laws of attraction, you did intend that because that's what you were putting out there. And it's like, oh, because that part of intention, and when you look at the synonyms up there, intent is there. I'm like, oh, it's part of the word. But it's a different energy when I say, what was your intent behind that? Because sometimes you can feel it with people when they're using their words. Remember the 4 agreements. The first agreement with Don Miguel Ruiz, 4 agreements. The first agreement was be impeccable with your word. So when I first was reading it, I'm like, well, I tell the truth. It's like that's not completely what it meant. It's like be impeccable with your words because words create. So when I say, and man, I will always drop the dime on me and call myself out, but I don't want anybody else to beat me up with it. Is that clear? Is that like him? I'm pretty honest enough. But I know that I've been thwarting my own goals and my own intentions, and this word, this agreement of being impeccable with my word, I'm like, no flogging. I haven't been impeccable. So now impeccable, he has impeccable taste. She has impeccable taste. It's like a glorious word. It's shiny for the Leos in the room. It's a shiny word. It's impeccable. It's polished and shiny and refined. Perfect. And when I create from that place, and I'm throwing that dart, I'm going to get it right in the middle of the peace sign, which is cool for Brian since he's standing right there. And then impeccability with my word draws that intention to me. Now we've talked about dimensions and all that stuff, and instead of it being more like this thing is coming at me, it's more that every day I've actually stepped into a different dimension, and that dimension looked more and more like the reality I wanted. So has anybody here ever had to go to an eye doctor and get checked for glasses? They put that weird machine and on there like number 1 and number 2, number 1 and number 2, number 1 and number 3 and number 4, number 3 and number 4, number click, 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 click. And but little by little, it's like, it's an E. I see the E. And I know I'm a dork, but that's what that dimensional shift is. It's like veils are being released. Fog is getting out of the way, and bam, I see the reality I wanted. I see the E, and all I've ever wanted was an E. Now, anyway, I used to always see the E. Now I would love to see the E again. But anyway. But when I realized that all those different things, when I got that visual of the optical, I'm like, oh, that's a perfect visual for people because most of us have been through some kind of eye exam. And it's like, so it brings that clarity into it, but it's actually a dimensional change. So nothing like was like, there's no missiles coming from the universe of a new car that landed in my driveway. Golly, we'd have to duck all the time. When the things are attracting to me, I'm actually really stepping into it and stepping into the flow of it. But all these things have the same principle. You know, I've said this over and over when I've read this piece on commitment, that there's a point in it where it says, the moment that one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too. And it's long. I got introduced to this piece through Art Sellers in the workshop that Margie and Scott and I all co-lead and lead. This is where I learned from this piece. So way back when, there was no internet and stuff, I went to my book dictionary and opened it. And on the page, it has all these definitions. I'm like, I knew what providence meant, but all right. And it said benevolence. I'm like, all right, well, I know what benevolence means too, but let me get that clear definition. And in that particular dictionary, it translated to magic. The moment one definitely commits oneself, then magic moves too. All sorts of things occur to help one that would never otherwise occurred. A whole stream of events issues from the decision, raising in one's favor all manner of unforeseen incidents and meetings and materialist incidents which no one could have ever dreamed would come their way. Wow, man, that piece, this is like just a piece of paper, and I know it was from a tree and there's some black ink on it, but can you feel the energy off of this thing? It's one of the most powerful pieces of paper and printed words that I've ever felt energetically in my body. And when I forget it, like I was talking about, sometimes we doze off at 2 in the afternoon. Doesn't mean we forgot everything we knew. So even in our own enlightenment, when we sometimes doze off in our awakening, okay, you took a nap, wake up, have a cup of coffee or tea, because you're airy fairy. I'm teasing. And wake up. Maybe you needed a rest. Maybe you were becoming overwhelmed. You know, we're so zealous in this wanting for to feed ourselves with this knowledge and enlightenment. And that's why I love Ram Dass's joke when people are like, I'm getting enlightened. He's like, cool, see you later. And the way he does it, it's just like, he doesn't beat him up about it, but he's kind of calling him out of like, really? You're getting like this pretentious with your own enlightenment? Square one, you know, back to kindergarten. So all of this happens and you put them all together and realize it's like, none of that hurts when I do it. It sure does when I don't. Man, my mind, Mike Tyson said this, and I'm going to screw it all up, but my mind is not always a safe place to walk at night. You know, it's like, and I have to honor that because I wouldn't bring you to that neighborhood. The hell am I driving around in it for? Why is it always at night? Because in the daytime, I don't have as much scary thoughts as I do at night. But it's all part of the lesson. It's all part of the inside job of it. But when I realize that I can do these things and that boldness does have magic and power and genius in it, that I just have to begin it. You know, at the end of every workshop, I can't tell them because there's people in the workshop. No, I sing a song called Good Riddance. And there's a line that says, something unpredictable, and in the end it's right. I hope you have the time of your life. And I change the line at the end and I say, be something unpredictable, and in the end you'll find you'll always have the time of your life. So as I think about that, sometimes I'm like, how predictable am I? How predictable have I become in my own life, in my own patterns? How predictable are we in the things that we've been doing? And is predictable and boldness hang out together? Like, are they going to go have coffee, tea, whatever, play frisbee? I mean, I know in the cosmic picture there's the opposites and they'll all sit at the table together. But when it comes to creation on the team, I don't think boldness and predictability really, really hang out a lot. And it's starting to make me think about those things. And my own little lyric that I added to the thing, be something unpredictable. So as I'm looking at what my dreams are, and then you have your dreams, we have all these different dreams and intentions here. None of them are wrong. We've talked about the shitting on each other. We've done all these different talks about honoring the me and you. We made a vow to each other a couple weeks ago as a community to allow each other, empower each other to be who they are and to be who they choose to be. Because there's a certain thing that Mark just is, because I'm kind of Mark. And I've been kind of Mark since I grew up, being Mark. But then there's also those other things that I choose to do. I want to move further in my writing career and get more things published. I want to continue this stuff that Scott and I do with the workshops and broaden it to the more people, because it's just good stuff. That's a choice, man. Well, what if, you know, I've had really good friends in life that when I first started working for Margie and started doing workshops, they thought I was joining a cult. And they didn't want to be my friends anymore. And yeah. And I know, and all the cult people ever tell me to do is love. Come join. So it's like, but it was a little bit of sadness there too, that they didn't even know what was going on. They didn't know about it. It was just all fear. And that's all right, though. That's okay. That's part of those, you know, our paths cross and go, and we just, you know, honor everybody, whoever they are, for what they believe in. And as we evolve in our own selves, we realize that our intentions are part of our evolution. And I don't know if it's going to snap you into this, but when Margie and I first started our little guru groups, on Wednesday nights, we would have these little affirmation cards. And one of the ones that I can remember verbatim today that made such an impact on me, and says, good intentions are not enough. Be evolutionary, not revolutionary. So I'm like, okay, so translating that line and bringing that fortune cookie type line with me my entire life since then, my entire life, half a life ago, because I was only 25 when we met. Uh, it's almost like the serenity prayer. I've processed each line differently at different times in my life. So just the good intentions are not enough part. It's like, well, think about that. We've heard that saying, good intentions aren't enough. Well, okay, well, if they are with all these other things, they are. But that evolutionary part is the key to it. Because when I have an intention, I'm aiming, but I have a revolution going on inside, the odds just increase that either Brian or Denise are getting a dart in the forehead. But when I'm evolutionary and I've got everything within me evolving, that means even my ego, even the things that I was in my way about, even the things that I thought I saw before. But the guy was like, is it a one or is it two? Is it a one? Is it three or four? And that clarity started coming to me, bam, every time I hit the bullseye. There's really no reason for us to fail, actually, technically. And when we do, it's all part of that. Is it a two or is it a three? Is it a one or is it a two? Anyway, so you really didn't fail. You're just adjusting your lenses. So failing is great, even in this. That's part of the evolutionary part. That's part of evolving. The refusing to fail, that's the revolution. And then there's just dead bodies everywhere and sad people and, you know, holidays later on to commemorate the dead bodies and sad people. Yes.
Failing is just an opportunity to experience something better.
And home and talk be awesome. Yes. And to tag on that line, to forgive when we're failing, and I think I even shared this with you the other day, that forgiveness is letting go of all hopes of a better past. So you bring those two together, and it's like, I can forgive myself for failing and realizing it was just showing me a new opportunity, and I can let go of that past being any better than it was. That's what I did. I made this thing, and I thought I made it right, and when I set it up, it fell to the floor. I failed. And someone's like, Mark, you forgot the Gingley sprocket. Oh, put the Gingley sprocket in, and it's like, wah, wah, works. And I know I'm being ridiculously silly. But what I did is I evolved in my own stuff. And because if I was too stubborn to listen to the other mechanic who knew how to build these things, every time I built it, I'd be building it wrong, and I would never have succeeded because I was revolting inside. I was revolting against anybody else teaching me anything. I was revolting against any new knowledge or any other ego other than mine taking any aim in my intention. It's like, well, wait a minute. Sometimes we're on a team and we're all trying to get the ball in this basket. We take turns taking aim so that we all win. That's what teammates are for. When we say the goal is over there, and you want to put this ball in that goal. Sometimes it's your turn, sometimes it's your turn, and we collectively are going to win the game, and then we get that good shiny trophy again for the shiny things, and we like shiny things. So we do that as a team, and we revel in it. So it's the same thing, and individually, every single one had to have an intention to be able to make that goal, that whatever the goal was, be it basketball, I'm visualizing shooting hoops. But they had to have a personal intention, and they had to be bold enough to join the team. Back to that Keanu Reeves movie that Scott and I love so much about it's called Hardball, where he was the baseball coach to Little League, and they were all misfits and discombobulated when he took over. And he formed them because he kept acknowledging them. And then he complimented, and the biggest compliment he gave them wasn't on their baseball talent, it was their ability to show up. And I know it chokes him up every time, man, because it's something that goes into our soul, because it's part of that evolutionary thing. It's part of that my willingness to show up. As we've processed this weekend with the lovely souls that have joined in, it was their willingness to show up that helped them heal and continue to heal the boo-boos in their life. Or to get the veils out of the way just to give them more clarity if they weren't maybe dealing with a boo-boo but had an intention. I see the target, but golly, there's all these obstacles in my way. I don't think the dart's going to get there. It's going to hit the low-hanging branches and stuff. I need to clear things. And that's what all these things help us do. Each one of these words up there is like clicking one of those things, like take aim. Oh, well, what is the ambition here? It's reminding you of the intent. They're all information. They're all reminder words of that one intention. Well, what is it that you aspire to do in this intention? Oh, well, you know, as we're looking at the pod, and Shannon's not here today. Hi, Shannon Ari. They haven't been feeling good. But one of the things she's leading to me to this website to help us as the business of the pod move forward. And I've been in sales. I've been rah-rah. I've been really good in my company when I worked for that kind of atmosphere of sales and closings and pitches. But this is a different perspective because we're a church, right? We're a 501c and a nonprofit. So sometimes we're relying on the gifts from other people. One of the things they're talking about in this program is about changing the language. So if I say to you the word donor, what's the first thing that comes up in your mind? Blood, organs. He's pointing to his belly. And that's exactly what they said too. It's like, so when you're asking for money out in the world, nobody wants to give you blood or organs. But if you're seeking philanthropists, that's different. If you're saying, I don't want a donation, but I want to present you with an opportunity to support a community that wants to make an impact. Holy moly, man, we just changed the language of the stuff I was taught. Well, I'm learning that for me and for us and going to learn it more. But it applies the same way here. In my own intention, in my own inner language, sometimes I have to change the language because if I have somebody in me, even as a writer, thinking, oh, I would like someone to donate to me so I can publish more, I have to realize I'm like, oh, I just asked somebody to give me their organs and their blood. Vibrationally, my body feels that, and that is incongruent with my own intention and my own creation. I need a 2 or maybe a 3, maybe I need a 5. I needed to change that glass now and see clear and evolve in me enough to be willing to do that and get out of my way and to know that the moment I begin it, all that stuff is going to happen if I keep committed to it. You can't fool the universe. You can't fool your body. It knows how it feels. So sometimes we say, okay, step it back, step it back, step it back. Some people call it fake it till you make it, and I'm not telling you that you have to fake it. So here's this. I want abundance in my life. And everybody else is like, doesn't believe it because they've been conditioned and programmed with all this revolutionary stuff and doubt. I want to want abundance. Okay, that sentence started resonating differently because someone in there is like, well, yeah, I want it, but I still don't. And then you have to step it back again to that word, well, I'm willing to want it. And a new mechanism just gets turned on inside of you. And something starts growing and that light starts turning up and the fire gets warmer and warmer because you started where the truth was. You weren't ready yet, but you're willing to be ready. You're willing to learn how to do it. And as those vibrational truths happen more and more in your body, you're changing your dimension because you're changing your vibration. You're now living at a different frequency. And this is the thing that you said you wanted. It's playing on 105.9. And you've been hanging out at 86.5. Talk radio. Talk radio. Stuck in your head. Let's play the music. So look at all these different things. Look at all the different ways that we can support our own intentions. Be willing to be impeccable with our words and bring the different teachings we've had from different perspectives in life, different authors, different writers, different animals, different moments that you witnessed in life where you saw someone succeed and you didn't even have a dialogue. You just happened to be watching what they were doing. They say if you want to succeed, copy someone who succeeded, emulate their behaviors, so vibrate with who you vibrate. And if you find someone in your community that you can resonate with and they're succeeding in something that you have a passion for too, watch what they did. Ask them. 9 times out of 10, I bet you they're going to bring you mostly into all the things they did in here, and then those few things they did out there to bring it into fruition. So play with these things. Play with yourselves all the time when it comes to this kind of stuff, and not get your head in the way, because I know I'm being silly, but I'm being silly on purpose because it's our seriousness that will stop us from hitting the target every time. Becky and I were talking about our workshop, and she's been assisting for a while, and we all like this. It's a passion. And one of the things we talked about that gave Scott and I the courage to first start doing, and Margie too, we all were grooming this together with Art, was the willingness to throw a mud ball. And when I call a mud ball, it's like when you say something to somebody in counseling or in this type atmosphere, and you're completely wrong. That's not what they were going through. But the willingness to be wrong and not let your ego, like, I can only throw arrows. I can only throw an arrow that's going to pierce their heart of truth and move them on to catharsis. I'm limiting my arrow ammo because sometimes I have to throw 5 mud balls and see how they land and go, oh, bullseye. And then their light comes on, or like Scott calls it, their demons just got outed and can no longer live in that body. They have to vacate the premises because now light is there and they were hiding in the shadows. So all of that is part of it. All of it is part of it. I invite us to continue to do this with each other and to lovingly call each other out. That's why I said a moment ago, when I began to ask playfully, that I will drop the dime on myself on everything, but you can't beat me up with it. But you can lovingly call me out and go, hey, I thought your intention was to quit smoking again. I see you smoked 5 today. Lovingly, not, hey, bonehead, you smoked again. I wasn't pointing at you. Guilty conscience. Good Catholic girl. Anyway, remember to support your intentions. Remember to be gentle with yourself along the way and to get support from each other. You're allowed to keep it secret when it's a dream so that you can keep that energy building and condensed, because sometimes we leak the energy before we can let it build enough. But when you want to bring it into form and when you're taking the action to do it, tell someone. Get a witness and get support. Ahoma Taku Awesome. Thank you.